I didn't turn on the lights that morning. Light made you visible. Visibility got you killed. The documents from the archive were spread across the motel floor like the aftermath of a confession. Every page whispered the same thing. Langford didn't steal for greed, he stole for control. But control works both ways. And I was about to test how far his reached. At 8 a.m., I took the risk and called the only person I trusted, Leah, a systems analyst who'd left Varen Technologies months earlier after a dispute with management. She'd always suspected something was wrong with the company. When she answered, her voice was wary. "Ethan, it's been a while. I need your help," I said quietly. "And I need you not to ask questions." She hesitated. "Are you in trouble?" I didn't reply. Silence. Then, "Meet me at the old train station in 1 hour." The station was half abandoned, glass cracked, walls tagged with graffiti, pigeons nesting in the rafters. Leah stood near a vending machine, hoodie up, scanning the crowd like someone who'd watched too many spy films, or not enough. When she saw me, her eyes widened. "You look like hell. I've been better." I handed her a flash drive. Encrypted. Contains corporate records tied to offshore accounts. I need it decoded, traced, anything you can find. She frowned. "What am I looking for?" "Patterns," I said. "Names, transactions, connections." She plugged the drive into her laptop right there, despite my protest. Lines of data scrolled across the screen. After a few minutes, she whispered, "Jesus, Ethan, these accounts cross multiple industries. Energy, defense, healthcare. It's like he's buying influence, not hiding money." That's what I thought. Then she stopped typing. "Wait. This one." She pointed to a recent transaction. $9.4 million transferred 2 days ago from Sylvan Advisory to a private security contractor. Recipient: Orion Risk Solutions. Langford's reach had just turned private. Leah's voice dropped. "Ethan, that's a mercenary firm." Before I could reply, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She frowned, declined the call. Seconds later, my phone rang. Same number. No caller ID. Just a voice. Familiar. "I told you to stop digging, Ethan." "Langford." Leah froze. He continued, "You shouldn't involve innocent people. It complicates things." Then, click. The call ended. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Leah whispered, "How did he know I was with you?" I looked around. The parking lot, the rooftops, the glass windows above us. Somewhere out there, someone was watching. I grabbed her laptop, yanked the flash drive out. "Go home. Forget this." She shook her head. "Not a chance. If he's got people watching, you'll need someone who can erase you, digitally." She hesitated, then added, "Give me 12 hours. I returned to the motel. The air felt heavier, the silence too deliberate. On the nightstand, the phone's red light blinked. One new message. I pressed play. "You're making this harder than it has to be. People who stand near you tend to fall. You have until midnight." Then static. Underneath, a faint echo, a second voice. A woman's. "Leah." I called her immediately. No answer. Tried again. Nothing. By sunset, panic turned into focus. I retraced her digital trail using the network ID from her laptop's connection. Her signal had gone dark somewhere near the riverfront, an industrial district filled with storage depots and empty warehouses. At 9:27 p.m., I found her car. Driver's door open. Laptop still on the passenger seat. Screen cracked. Flash drive gone. The steering wheel was smeared with something dark. Blood. I backed away, shaking. Someone else was there before me, maybe still nearby. A single slip of paper fluttered on the dashboard, held down by the car keys. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. Curiosity kills faster than bullets. No signature. Just a faint trace of expensive cologne. Langford. The sirens were distant when I left. I couldn't call the police. Langford's reach was too wide, too embedded. Instead, I returned to the motel, every step echoing with guilt. Leah had trusted me. Now she was gone. On the bed, I spread out the remaining files, the ones she hadn't touched. Somewhere in there had to be the reason he killed to protect this secret. Then I saw it. Project Lyris wasn't just about money, it was a network. Each company he siphoned from had later signed exclusive deals with a government data contractor. That contractor? Orion Risk Solutions. The same firm that had received Langford's transfer. It wasn't theft. It was integration. Langford was building something, a private intelligence web disguised as corporate restructuring. Money was just the lubricant. The real prize was information. At 11:42 p.m., another text arrived. She's alive. For now. Bring the originals to level 41 tomorrow. 9 a.m. Come alone. No threats, no drama. Just logistics, the language of certainty. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Level 41. The same floor where I'd first met him. The same floor that didn't officially exist. Midnight came and went. I sat in the dark, the hum of the city like distant static. Somewhere out there, Leah was either alive or gone, depending on whether I showed up. Langford had finally cornered me. He'd taken everything abstract, data, numbers, silence, and made it personal. I packed the files, the USB, and the recorder into a single folder. Then I looked at my reflection in the window. Tired eyes. Unshaven face. A man already halfway erased. You wanted a war of truth, I whispered. Now you've got one. The first knock came at 12:06 a.m. 3 slow taps. Then a voice through the door. Mr. Vale. We're here to escort you to the tower. I didn't move. The voice repeated, calmer this time. If you want to see her alive, don't make us knock again. I looked at the folder one last time. The evidence of everything, greed, power, blood, sitting on that desk like a loaded gun. Then I whispered to myself, all right, Arthur. Let's see what kind of god you think you are. And I opened the door. The elevator to level 41 moved slower than I remembered. Maybe it was my pulse echoing in my ears, or maybe the building itself knew what was waiting above. 2 men from Orion Risk Solutions stood beside me. Black suits, no emotion, the kind of men who'd already killed someone this week and didn't plan to stop. They said nothing. Neither did I. When the doors opened, the hallway glowed with soft amber light. Same as before. Same air of wealth, silence, and quiet violence. At the end of the corridor, the door to Langford's office stood open. He was waiting. Ethan, he said warmly, as if greeting an old friend. I was starting to think you wouldn't come. I stepped inside. The 2 guards stayed by the door. Langford sat at the same desk, though this time there were papers everywhere. Contracts, signatures, transfer forms, photographs. The empire laid bare. Where is she? I asked. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Alive. For now. But let's not be dramatic. This can still end neatly. I didn't touch the drink. You said 9 a.m. He checked his watch. 8:59. You're early. I like that. He gestured to a chair across from him. I stayed standing. Do you know what your mistake was? He asked. You believed this was about money. It never was. Money's just the blood that keeps the body moving. The real power. He tapped his temple. Is information. I know about Orion, I said. He smiled. Of course you do. You were always the brightest. He rose from his chair, walking slowly around the table. Orion isn't mine, Ethan. It's everyone's. Governments, corporations, investors, they all feed it data, and it feeds them control. I just keep it balanced. I remove the noise. Noise? I asked. You mean people? He shrugged. Words. Numbers. People. Same thing in the right spreadsheet. He returned to his chair, folding his hands. So, here's the situation. You bring me the originals, the files from the archive, and I let her go. You vanish quietly, and this never happened. And if I don't... He smiled, patient, like a teacher. Then I make sure you vanish instead. You, Leah, your family, Anyone who's ever shared your Wi-Fi signal. I'm not a violent man, Ethan. I'm just efficient. I placed the folder on the desk. Thick. Heavy. Every page a weapon. Here, I said. Langford's smile widened. See? You're learning. Compliance isn't weakness, it's evolution. He reached for the folder. That's when I spoke. It's not paper, I said. It's bait. He froze. I leaned closer. You think you control every narrative. But this one's already writing itself. His eyes narrowed. What did you do? That meeting you had with the CEO, the one where you forced him to sign Project Lyris, I recorded it. Every word. I sent copies to 3 journalists, an NGO, and 1 board member who already hates you. He chuckled softly. You think they'll believe it? Audio can be edited. Evidence can be fabricated. Exactly, I said. Which is why I also sent your metadata. Timestamps. GPS traces. Network pings. All verified through your private encryption key, AL52LX. The one only you could have used. For the first time, he didn't smile. He sat back, studying me. Clever. But short-sighted. You underestimate how fast I can rewrite a story. I could turn you into the villain in an hour. You already did, I said. I just decided to act like one. He tilted his head, intrigued. Explain. I gestured toward the security cameras in the corners of the room. They're not yours anymore. I hijacked the feed on my way in. This conversation, right now, is being live-streamed to the company's internal compliance server. Everyone's watching. Even the board. He laughed. Loud. Genuine. No one watches compliance footage, Ethan. They will, I said, because I emailed them the link. The room went quiet. Behind us, one of the guard's earpieces crackled faintly. He looked uncertain for the first time. Langford's tone changed, colder, sharper. What do you want? I want her alive, I said. And I want your confession. He stared at me for a long time, then smiled again, smaller this time, bitter. Confession, he repeated softly. You still believe this is about right and wrong. That's what makes you weak. He leaned forward, voice like a whisper of smoke. You can expose me, but the system will bury the story before lunch. The board will call it a misunderstanding. The journalists will get sued into silence. And you, he tapped the folder, will disappear under charges you can't fight. He wasn't bluffing. I could see it in his eyes, the calm certainty of a man who'd built the machine and fed it himself. Then something unexpected happened. The guard's radio clicked again. Sir, we have a problem. External feed is live. Thousands of internal logins detected. We can't shut it down. Langford turned toward him sharply. What? Another voice came through the static. Sir, it's global. The file's trending. #MentorGate. He looked back at me slowly. You didn't send it to the board, he said quietly. You sent it to the world. I met his gaze. Truth doesn't need permission. For the first time, I saw something break behind his eyes, a flicker of disbelief. He stood abruptly, knocking the whiskey glass off the table. You think this ends me? I am the system, Ethan. Then watch yourself burn, I said. The door burst open. Security poured in, not Orion, but corporate officers from the compliance division, armed with court orders and digital warrants. Langford's face turned pale. Impossible. The lead officer spoke. Arthur Langford, you're under investigation for fraud, coercion, and racketeering. Step away from the desk. He looked at me once more, expression unreadable, half fury, half respect. You have no idea what you've started, he whispered. Maybe not, I said. But for the first time, it's not your story anymore. They took him away in handcuffs, still muttering something under his breath. When the door closed, the room fell silent except for the distant hum of the city, the sound of a system cracking open. On the desk, his untouched glass of whiskey trembled slightly from the air conditioning. Golden liquid. Cold light. A monument to control undone. I picked up the folder, the fake bait, and tucked it under my arm. In the reflection of the window, I saw myself, exhausted, hollow, alive. Maybe I'd won. Maybe I'd just survived longer than he planned. Either way, the game had changed. Langford's arrest made headlines for exactly 6 hours. Then it vanished. By dawn, the story had been buried under technical audits and ongoing internal reviews. No names. No photographs. No narrative. The machine had cleaned its mess, just like it always did. 3 days later, I received an invitation. Board of Directors, emergency session. 8 a.m. Conference Hall B. Attendance mandatory. I stared at the email for a long time. Mandatory. The same word they'd used for corporate ethics training. The irony was almost poetic. When I arrived, the boardroom smelled of money and disinfectant. 12 chairs, one empty at the head of the table. The CEO, Adrian Clark, sat in silence, thinner, paler, his authority hollowed out. Across from him sat faces I'd only seen in annual reports. Investors, attorneys, old men who could move markets with a phone call. No one greeted me. I took the seat nearest the door. The kind you choose when you don't expect to stay long. At exactly 8, a woman entered. Tall, composed, expensive. Victoria Hale, chairwoman of the board. She didn't bother with small talk. Mr. Langford's actions have damaged the company's reputation, she said. We're here to discuss corrective measures. Her tone was surgical, no anger, no remorse. Just logistics. She looked at me. Mr. Vale, you were the employee who initiated the internal whistleblowing process, correct? Correct, I said cautiously. Good. We appreciate your diligence. However, due to the sensitive nature of these events, we'll require all related files, recordings, and communications to be surrendered immediately. I blinked. Those are now part of an ongoing investigation. Exactly, she replied, smiling thinly. And we'd prefer to manage that investigation internally. I understood then. Langford might be gone, but his ghost still sat in the room, wearing new suits, speaking through new mouths. Mrs. Hale, I said carefully, Langford's network involved multiple shell companies connected to Orion Risk. If you internalize this, the evidence disappears. Again. Her expression didn't change. You're emotional, Mr. Vale. That's understandable. But this company cannot survive another public scandal. We'll handle this quietly. Quietly. That word again, the corporate equivalent of burial. Clark spoke up for the first time. Victoria, he's right. If we bury this, we become complicit. She turned to him. Adrian, you are complicit. You signed the authorizations. The room went still. Clark tried to protest, but she continued, voice like glass. Your resignation will be accepted effective immediately. For the good of the company. He looked around for support. None came. In the hierarchy of survival, guilt is a currency. And his value had just dropped to 0. Then she looked at me again. As for you, Mr. Vale, we can offer a severance package. Generous, with non-disclosure clauses. Take it, and this chapter ends for everyone. I leaned back. So that's it. Sweep it clean and move on. That's how the world works, she said. Systems correct themselves. It's not corruption, it's continuity. I almost laughed. Langford would have been proud. Because this was his philosophy made flesh. Not a man, but a mechanism. You remove one player, another slides into position. Nothing dies. It just rebrands. I won't sign it, I said finally. A ripple went through the room, quiet disapproval disguised as concern. Victoria sighed softly. Then understand what happens next. Your access will be revoked. Your reputation will be reviewed. You'll find it difficult to work in this industry again. I'll survive. She smiled faintly. You think you're the first person to threaten us with the truth? I looked around the table, 12 faces of power, each pretending morality was a luxury they couldn't afford. You're not afraid of truth, I said. You're afraid of losing the illusion of control. One of the board members, an older man with a trembling hand, whispered, We all lose control eventually. No one responded. When the meeting adjourned, Clark stood up slowly. His eyes found mine. You did what I couldn't, he said quietly. But it won't change anything. Maybe not, I replied. But it changes me. He nodded, something like shame flickering across his face. Then he walked out, escorted by security, the former CEO now just another liability. Outside the boardroom, the halls were already buzzing with new directives. New PR campaigns. New slogans about transparency and integrity. The world moves fast when it wants to forget. In the elevator, I caught my reflection again, the same tired man who started this months ago. Except now, there was something else in his eyes. Not victory. Not relief. Just clarity. Langford had been right about one thing. Numbers don't lie, but people do, especially when they start believing their own stories. My phone buzzed. A new email. No sender. No subject. I opened it. You did well, Ethan. But the board isn't your enemy. They're my replacement. Attached was a single image, Langford, sitting in what looked like an interrogation room. Smiling. A timestamp in the corner. Yesterday, 11:47 p.m. He wasn't in prison. He'd been moved. The elevator doors opened, flooding me with white fluorescent light. For a moment, I just stood there, caught between truth and futility. Then I walked out, gripping the phone like a lifeline. If the system couldn't be broken, it could still be exposed. But this time, I'd have to do it from the outside. The glass tower behind me gleamed under the morning sun, flawless, innocent, unrepentant. I thought of all the stories buried beneath its floors. All the ghosts trapped in its silence. And I whispered to no one in particular. You built a machine, Arthur. But machines rust. Then I turned my back to the tower, and didn't look back. For a week, everything was quiet. Too quiet. No calls. No threats. No shadows in the parking lot. Silence, the kind that feels manufactured. The kind that exists not because danger is gone, but because it's thinking. The story of mentor strategies resurfaced in the media once, briefly, before being swallowed by newer headlines. Celebrity divorces, market crashes, distractions dressed as news. Langford's name disappeared from the narrative entirely. Official reports called it a financial miscommunication. Just like that, $400 million of ghost money dissolved into the fog. I'd exposed the man. But not the machine. I spent those days in a small apartment downtown, living like a ghost. Curtains drawn, phone on silent, laptop disconnected from everything except a single encrypted drive. Sleep was rare. Trust, extinct. Every night, I replayed the last thing Langford had said before being taken away. You have no idea what you've started. He was right. Because as the silence stretched on, I began to notice the edges shifting. Emails arrived from unknown sources, journalists, whistleblowers, even insiders from other companies. Each with fragments, suspicious contracts, erased ledgers, familiar code phrases, Mentor Protocol, Project Lyris, Orion Integration. Different corporations. Different industries. Same pattern. Langford hadn't built a scam. He'd built an infrastructure. And now that he was gone, it was reorganizing itself. One message stood out. No sender, no signature. Just a short sentence. You can't stop something that was designed to survive you. Attached was a single file, lyris_report_v2.pdf. It detailed a network of shell companies, newly formed in Singapore and Zurich, identical to Langford's old structures but under different names. The directors listed? Former board members from Varen Technologies. They'd replaced the king, not dismantled the throne. That night, I met Leah again. Alive, but changed. Her eyes carried the weight of things she wouldn't say. I don't know how I got out, she whispered. One minute I was tied in a warehouse, the next, they let me go. Who's they? I asked. She shook her head. Didn't see faces. Only heard a voice on a phone. Said, tell him he's not finished. We sat in silence for a long time. Rain smeared the city lights outside the window like melting glass. Finally, she said, you did it, Ethan. You broke the story. No, I said quietly. I broke the wrong part. She frowned. What do you mean? Langford wasn't the system. He was the firewall. The realization hit like static through the air. Everything he'd done, the money, the manipulation, the power plays, was just maintenance. He wasn't hiding corruption. He was managing it, keeping it efficient, contained, predictable. Now that he was gone, chaos would take his place. The next morning, the markets began to shudder. A logistics giant filed bankruptcy. A government contractor collapsed overnight after a data breach. Energy stocks tumbled, then spiked. Billions moved in minutes, and no one could explain why. But I could. Langford's absence had created a vacuum. The ecosystem of silent deals and clean cover-ups was unraveling without its architect. Every suppressed truth was clawing its way to the surface, and the world didn't know how to digest honesty. By noon, I was contacted by the Veritas Network, an independent media group that had been tracking financial crimes across multiple continents. They'd seen my story. They wanted my data. I met their editor in a cafe near the river, neutral ground, sunlight filtered through gray glass. She was direct. We can publish everything. But once we do, there's no going back. You'll be hunted, discredited, erased. I smiled faintly. Already happened. She nodded. Then welcome to the other side. We built the package carefully. Timelines, recordings, corporate maps, the full skeleton of Mentor Strategies and its offspring. It was ready to go live within 48 hours. That night, Leah helped me review the final draft. She stopped midway through, scrolling back up. Wait, she said. This reference, Lyris Protocol. You said it was a network for money transfers, right? Yeah. She pointed to a footnote in the metadata. It read, data sync between nodes verified, AL52LX. Langford's encryption key. He was still in the system. The silence broke. We disconnected instantly, but it was too late. My laptop froze, screen turning black. Then a single message appeared in white text. I told you, you can't delete an architect. The cursor blinked. Then, see you soon. Leah backed away, whispering, he's supposed to be in custody. I stared at the screen. Maybe he still is. She frowned. What? What if custody was the plan? What if he wanted to vanish from the map, to reboot off-grid? The screen flickered again. A new line appeared. Project Lyris operational. And then it shut down completely. Outside, thunder rolled through the city. Rain hammered the glass. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful this time. It was waiting, calculating, like the breath before a storm tears the sky open. I looked at Leah. He's alive. She nodded slowly. And he's already rebuilding. I exhaled, steady and cold. Then we don't expose him this time. What do we do? She asked. I turned off the lights and stared at the skyline, the glass towers glinting like weapons in the rain. We infiltrate. The first rule of infiltration is simple. To burn a system from the inside, you have to look like fuel. 2 weeks after the Lyris message appeared, I was no longer Ethan Vale, whistleblower. I was Evan Reed, financial consultant, recently hired by Sylvan Advisory Group, one of the many resurrected shells Langford had once built. New name. New records. New silence. The irony wasn't lost on me. To expose the lie, I had to live it. Leah had hesitated when I told her the plan. You're walking into his world, she said. What if you can't walk back out? Then I'll at least know how deep it goes. She looked at me for a long time before nodding. Then we go together. She became my digital ghost, wiping my data trails, feeding me intel, building fake credentials so clean they'd fool an intelligence agency. By the time Sylvan's HR system finished vetting me, my new identity was flawless. That's how easy it is to build a person in a world that never stops forgetting. Sylvan Advisory operated from a mirrored skyscraper in Geneva, beautiful, sterile, and humming with the quiet arrogance of untouchable money. Inside, everything smelled like glass and control. My first day, I was escorted to a minimalist office overlooking the lake. A woman in a gray suit introduced herself as Elena Voss, Director of Strategic Operations. She studied me the way Langford used to, polite smile, predatory eyes. "Mr. Reed," she said, "your background is impressive. Varen Technologies, correct?" I kept my tone casual. "Briefly, why did you leave?" "Corporate restructuring," I said. "You know how it is." Her lips curved slightly. "Oh, I do." Over the next few days, I watched and listened. Sylvan wasn't a company, it was a conduit. A place where digital ghosts of money came to rest before moving again. Every morning, encrypted transfers left the network. Every night, new ones arrived. Amounts too perfect, too symmetrical, like clockwork transactions designed by a mathematician with no soul. And every file, every single one, was tagged with a familiar code buried in its metadata. Lyris Node Verification, AL52LX. Langford's digital fingerprint. He wasn't hiding. He was operating. By the end of week 1, I was invited to a private meeting. Voss led me down a long glass hallway toward an elevator with no buttons. She pressed her palm against a biometric scanner. The doors opened to a floor that didn't exist on any map. Level 0. Inside, silence, soft blue lights, and a conference table surrounded by 6 people, all calm, all powerful, all pretending to be ordinary. At the head of the table sat a man I hadn't seen in months. Arthur Langford. Alive. Smiling. Untouched. "Evan Reed," he said smoothly. "Or should I say Ethan Vale?" The room froze. He waved a hand. "Relax. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it to the elevator." I said nothing. He poured a drink, the same golden whiskey as before. "You didn't think I'd let prison slow me down, did you?" "You were supposed to be exposed," I said quietly. He laughed. "Exposure is leverage, Ethan. You think I'd build an empire without an escape clause? The board needed a scapegoat, I gave them one. Then I disappeared, reborn under the same system you tried to dismantle." He leaned back. "Now here you are, sitting at my table, wearing one of my names. Tell me, what are you hoping to find?" "The end," I said. He smiled faintly. "There is no end. Only mergers and acquisitions." The others chuckled softly. Langford raised his glass. "Let's be clear. You work for me now. You'll handle a new division, discrete analytics, internal data flows. You wanted to understand the machine, Ethan. Here's your chance." Later that night, back in my apartment, Leah's voice came through my encrypted headset. "You saw him, didn't you?" "He's alive," I said. "And bigger than ever." "What now?" I stared out at the lake, the reflection of the moon slicing across the water like a knife. "Now," I said slowly, "we play his game." Working for Langford was like working inside a pulse. Every transaction, every coded message, every whisper felt alive, synchronized, deliberate. Sylvan wasn't laundering money anymore. It was tracking influence. Governments, think tanks, media outlets, all wired through consultancy payments that shaped global narratives. Langford didn't want wealth. He wanted alignment, a world where information moved the way he dictated. And I was inside it now, one of his instruments. Weeks passed. I learned to speak their language, optimization instead of manipulation, efficiency instead of exploitation, alignment instead of control. The vocabulary of power. Langford admired my precision. "You see the structure," he told me once. "You could help me stabilize it. Or dismantle it," I said quietly. He chuckled. Same skill set, different intent. He wasn't wrong. One evening, I received a private file transfer labeled Lyris, Genesis. Inside was a schematic, a map of every global node linked to Langford's network. Hundreds of corporations. Billions in motion. And at the center, one unmarked node. No country. No coordinates. Just a name. Origin. When I clicked it, the file autolocked. A message appeared. Access restricted. Authorization required. AL52LX. Langford's key again. His final layer. I closed the laptop. Outside, Thunder rolled across the lake, echoing off the glass towers. Leah's voice came through the headset. "Ethan, what did you find?" "The heart of it," I said. "The place where everything begins." She hesitated. "And what are you going to do?" I looked at my reflection, half in shadow, half in light. "I'm going to open it." The storm outside broke then, lightning cutting the night, rain hammering the windows like static applause. Somewhere deep in the servers of Sylvan Advisory, a key turned. And for the first time, Langford's system blinked. The night I opened the origin node, the storm didn't stop. It felt like the city itself was warning me. But curiosity has a gravity of its own. Once you fall, you don't get to choose where you land. The node was buried deep beneath Sylvan's encrypted servers, sealed behind 12 layers of code that shouldn't have existed. Each key opened a door that wasn't supposed to be there. Each door whispered a name I recognized. Companies, governments, foundations, all connected by one string, Lyris Protocol. Langford hadn't built a network. He'd built a mirror. Every financial exchange, every contract, every strategic partnership reflected something else, another transaction, another lie. The world didn't operate on trust or currency. It operated on synchronization. And Langford had synchronized it all. When the final firewall fell, the screen went blank for 3 full seconds. Then a single email appeared. Sender, Arthur Langford. Timestamp, 47 minutes ago. Impossible. He was gone, or should have been. The subject line read, "You wanted the truth." I hovered over it, pulse steady, then clicked. The message opened slowly, the text fading in line by line. "If you're reading this, you've succeeded. You've reached origin. Congratulations, Ethan. But don't fool yourself, you didn't win. You simply arrived at the place I needed you to reach. Origin isn't a vault. It's a relay. A seed. Every system built to expose corruption eventually becomes part of it. Every whistleblower becomes an administrator. Every truth needs a curator. I built Lyris to outlive me. But someone had to carry it forward. Someone who believed in justice enough to be dangerous, but disillusioned enough to be useful. That's you." I read the words twice before they sank in. He hadn't tried to stop me. He'd recruited me. At the bottom of the email, a single file attachment blinked, inheritance.zip. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside were admin credentials for the global Lyris infrastructure. Every node, every key, every control system, and one message embedded in the metadata. Choose wisely what you delete. Systems need balance, even when truth doesn't. Leah's voice crackled through the headset. "Ethan, what's happening?" "The servers just spiked. Every node is live." "He planned this," I said softly. "He built it to hand off. To you." I nodded, staring at the screen. "To anyone willing to destroy him, and smart enough to replace him." For a long moment, I didn't move. Every possible choice hovered in front of me. I could shut it down, delete every file, every account, every record. Erase his empire. But that would also erase every whistleblower record, every trace of corruption that could still be exposed. Or I could keep it alive. Use it. Reprogram it to serve the truth instead of control. The difference between justice and tyranny was suddenly just syntax, a command line waiting for input. Leah's voice rose. "Ethan, decide. They'll trace us any second." I closed my eyes, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Langford's words echoed again. "You can't delete an architect." Maybe he was right. Maybe the only way to destroy a system was to become the next version of it. I typed a single line of code. Access override. Ethan_. Then hit enter. The system blinked once, twice, and accepted. Lyris was mine. The monitors around me flooded with data. Governments, corporations, hidden contracts, encrypted communications. The entire architecture of global influence. It felt like staring into God's inbox. And for the first time, I understood the scale of what Langford had created. It wasn't evil. It was indifferent. A machine that simply reflected the motives of whoever held the key. Now that was me. Leah's voice broke the silence. "Ethan, what did you do?" I looked out the window. The storm had passed. The city glowed in pale gold light, washed clean by rain, quiet, waiting. "I leveled the field," I said. She didn't answer. "Tell the press the truth," I continued. "All of it. But don't mention me. If Lyra survives, it needs a ghost, not a hero." She hesitated. "Where will you go?" I smiled faintly. "Somewhere no one thinks to look." Then I disconnected. I stayed in that room until the sun rose, watching data pulse across the screens like blood through digital veins. For every lie I deleted, another took its place. For every truth I revealed, a new one appeared beneath it. The world didn't want to be free. It wanted to be managed. Maybe Langford had understood that long before I did. Hours later, a final notification appeared on the screen. Subject: System Verification. Origin node active. Sender: unknown. I opened it. "Welcome to the network, Mr. Vale. Every architect needs an apprentice." I stared at the words, a hollow laugh escaping before I could stop it. Even in defeat, Langford had written the ending. But this time, I would write the next chapter. I shut the laptop, took one last look at the skyline, and walked out into the morning. The city was calm, but beneath its glass and silence, something vast was breathing. The machine still lived. Only now, it had a new operator. Corporate secrets doesn't end with justice or revenge. It ends with a hand hovering over a keyboard, and the quiet understanding that the only thing more dangerous than corruption is control.